Hi Rangers, in this video we're going to talk about slope from an equation and slope from a graph. So we've already talked about slope from an equation when it's in slope-intercept form. Remember that m represents our slope. It is the number in front of x. It is just a number, so m equals slope. Then we have slope from a graph. So we have a different variety of how graphs can look. So one thing that can help us is our slope guy, or Mr. Slope. Okay, so Mr. Slope looks like this. So he has a round face, okay? And it helps us remember the different types of slope we have. So here we go. First off, we have our positive slope. So he gets a plus sign because he's positive. Then we have our negative slope. So he gets a minus sign. Then we have our undefined slope. Looks like that. U for undefined. And then we have our zero slope right here. So this is what we can use to help us remember positive, negative, undefined, and zero. This is Mr. Slope. Okay, so going on to some examples. Right here. What is the slope of the equations below? Well, we have y equals 12x minus 19. We know that slope is the number that is in front of x. So for this first one, our slope equals 12. Looking at this next example, we have y equals a negative 3 halves x minus 5. We know slope is the number that is in front of x. So our slope for this one is m equals a negative 3 halves. Okay, moving on. What is the slope of the graph of each equation? So we have y equals x minus 4. Remember that there is a 1 right here that we're too lazy to write. So our slope for this one is 1. Now, this is the one that we're messing up the most, so please pay attention to this video. 5x plus 3y equals 12. We cannot identify the slope until we solve for y. We cannot identify the slope until we solve for y. So we have to draw our line through our equal sign, and we have to move over the 5x minus 5x. So 5x minus 5x is 0. We're left with 3y equals 21 minus 5x. We need to get y by itself, so we divide everything by 3. When we do that, we get y equals 21 divided by 3 is 7 minus 5/3 x. Again, our slope is the number in front of x. So our slope is a negative 5/3. So we have that. Okay, looking at our graphs, calculate the slope of the line graphed. Well, remember our slope guy, or Mr. Slope, okay, and he told us that this is a positive slope. You can also write your name on the slope and see that it's going up from left to right. So we should know that it's a positive slope, if that is helpful. Okay, so what we need to do when we are finding the slope is we need to find 2 points, pretty points on the graph. Okay, so a pretty point would be something like this, that goes through a nice pretty point that we don't have to guess if it's a decimal. And I have another pretty point right here. Okay, so what we're going to do for this, our slope is the change of the y over the change of the x, meaning we're going to rise over run. So I need to rise until I get to my next y value. So I rose 1, 2. So my rise is a positive 2. And I run this way, which is 1, 2, 3. So my run was 3. So my rise was 2, my run was 3, which tells me my slope is 2/3. Now, you can pick any pretty points on the graph. If I continue that pattern of rising 2 and running 3, I should get another point on the graph. Rise over run. Okay? Looking at the next one. What is the rate of change of the line shown below? Well, looking at this, you have to be careful because the bottoms going by 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and the y-axis is going by 50s, 50, 100, 150, 200. So we have to be very, very careful when we're doing this. So pick 2 pretty points, any pretty points that you would like, and we're going to find the rise over run. So I'm going to pick this point and this point. So in this case, my rise is going down, which makes it negative. And remember, we're going by 50s and it only went down 1. So we went down a negative 50. Okay, so my rise over my run. And my rise was a negative 50 because it went down 50. And it runs over 1, which happens to be 10. And then we have to simplify. You have to simplify. So negative 50 divided by 10 simplifies to a negative 5. So my slope for this graph would be a negative 5. If you ignored the scaling of the x and y axis and you just told me that it was -1, it would be counted wrong. So you have to be careful and you have to make sure you check the scaling of the x and y axis. So hopefully we refreshed your mind on finding the slope from an equation, and we refreshed your mind on finding the slope from a graph using rise over run. Don't forget our Mr. Slope guy. He's here to help us with positive, negative, undefined, and 0 slopes. If you have any questions, go ahead and write them down and make sure you ask your teacher. Other than that, have a great day, Rangers.